This meeting is being recorded.
Oh,
Oh dear, different voice.
oh.
Oh,
Right, so there we go. Just mute everyone. Okay, so I'm just recording for Sue. So welcome, Sue. Just clicking around here. Right. Okay, so we're going to start lying down. Because I've just been away on a retreat. Wasn't I lucky? And it was fabulous. And it was with a lady called Monica Voss. And she's just so lovely. She's in her 70s and she's from Toronto. And she's got her own yoga studio. It's called Esther Meyer's Yoga Studio. And just a bit of background on her. She trained with Scaravelli. And Scaravelli is, she's passed away now. She didn't die until she was in her early hundreds, so 100 and 101, 102, something like that. And her style of yoga, Scaravelli yoga, is all about freeing the body. So when we think about the poses that we do, and we get into some quite strong poses and stretching and extending and breathing, and she focused very much on the breath, but also on freeing the body. So it was very much, you know, all the movements were taking them into your joints and trying to loosen the joints and just finding a sense of freedom in the body. And there was also a big emphasis on grounding, so feeling that you were connected to the earth. So this was a little practice that we did at the start of the class. So you lie on the mat. So as we come down to the mat and we're in Shavasana, so we're lying out on the mat. So our usual position with our feet slightly wider than hip distance apart, and the backs of our hands on the mat, so palms facing up, hands slightly away from the body, and just take a few breaths here. And just focus on releasing the body, releasing the spine. And her practice had a big emphasis on the back as well, particularly on the spine. And one of her mantras was that the spine always extends on the exhalation. And that was a bit of a revelation for me when I listened to them saying it, because if you think about that, just take a deep breath in. And when you breathe out, and we feel that motion of sinking down into the mat, but you should also feel some expansion into the spine. So the spine always lengthens on an exhalation. So we're going to think about that when we come to standing as well. And I think that sometimes when you do that breath, and you're breathing in, you almost feel as though your body is lifting, you're sending the crown of the head up to the ceiling. And when you breathe out, it almost feels as though you should be saying that you're sort of slumping down a little bit. You're, you know, the vertebrae compressing, but they don't. They extend, they expand with that in-breath. So we're going to keep that in mind. So that was one little tip from the course. So now on the retreat, I should say. So now as we're lying here, we're going to think about grounding into the mat. So we always do a little grounding session before we start our class, just to get our body relaxed and ready to move. And her grounding method was to think about 10 points in your body. So just lie here, eyes closed, breathing in, breathing out. And then we're going to take our attention to the 10 points that are really making a connection with the mat. So first of all, your heels. So with the exhalation, can you feel how the heels are really connecting to the mat? And there's another important thing that we get from the heels as you drop your toes out to the side. And we always talk about opening our hips doing this, but one of the key parts of it is it releases the psoas muscle that goes deep into the hips. So we talked about that the other week when we were doing hips and the connection with our emotions. So this simple movement of just thinking about the grounding of your heels also releases up into the psoas. So we got 2 heels, and then we move up to the sacrum area. So feel the connection with the sacrum and the mat. And then think about the sit bones. So this is the funny one because really you'd want to be sitting to think about grounding your sit bones. But the sit bones are such a major part of grounding the body. So just imagine that you can feel those sit bones at the bottom of the pelvis, so deep into the buttocks there, and imagine that you're trying to send those down towards the mat. So we're 2 heels, sacrum, we count the sit bones as 1. And then we move up to the thoracic spine, so the back of the rib cage, and just feel how that is connecting into the mat. And then we move up once again to the shoulders. 2 shoulders, shoulder blades, releasing them down into the mat. And then we move up to the back of the skull. There's a big connection here. So make sure that you're extending your neck away from you. So it's the back of the head that's connecting. And just feel how that's grounding into the mat. And then lastly, our elbows. The 2 elbows. So that's 2 heels, the sacrum, the sit bones, the thoracic spine, 2, 3, 4, 5, moving up to the shoulders, 6 and 7, 8 for the back of the skull, 9 and 10 for the elbows. So we don't mention the hands. You can add the hands in and you can make it 12 points. But usually that feeling of just pressing your elbows into the floor, grounding the floor, gives you enough of a connection with the arms. So we're just going to try one more thing before we come up to sitting. So as we're grounding here, take it in turns to go through each of those points. So 1 heel, press the heel into the ground. Breathing in, press the other heel into the ground. Do it on the exhalation, I should say. So breathing in, move into your sacrum. Send the sacrum into the ground on the exhalation. Breathing in. Send the sit bones towards the ground on the exhalation. Breathing in. Thoracic spine, press it into the ground. Remembering to ease everything else here. Breathing in. Pressing your one shoulder into the ground. Breathe in. Pressing the other shoulder into the ground. On the exhalation, releasing. So with the skull, just be gentle. Don't go too hard with the skull. Breathe in and just gently rest the back of the head into the ground. Breathing in. Ground the left elbow. Breathe in. Ground the right elbow. And then just stay for a moment. Just notice how relaxed the body feels, how grounded the body feels. So taking a breath in, bend both knees, plant the soles of the feet onto the floor. Just gently rock the head from side to side, just ease out from the neck. And then we're going to float our hands up and overhead. Just point the fingers away as you have a nice stretch. You might even have a yawn. And then interlace the fingers and slide them behind your head. So dropping the elbows out to the side. Just trying not to round the back too much. So trying not to lift the lower back away from the mat. So take a breath in. Breathe in those elbows together. The head will come away from the mat slightly, and as you breathe out, open the elbows back to the mat. So breathing in, elbows together. Breathing out, elbows to the mat. Do that once more, breathing in. Breathing out. And now take your attention to your fingers and the way that you've interlaced them and change it so that the other thumb is now on top. So it will feel a little bit strange. So the elbows are out wide, thinking about lengthening that spine. Take a breath in, draw the elbows together and feel the spine lengthen on the mat. Breathe out and open. Try and touch your elbows down towards the mat. Breathing in, elbows together. Breathing out, elbows go wide. Breathing in, elbows together. Breathing out, elbows wide, trying to touch them to the mat. Feel the shoulder blades connect to the mat. And then release your hands down to alongside the body. Draw the knees up and over the chest. And just have a little massage left and right. Just easing out the spine. And then take your hands around your shins if they're not there already. Take a breath in. And as you breathe out, think about the lengthening of the spine as you bring your nose towards your knees. You're curling up in a ball here. Breathe in and release. Do that once more. Breathe out. Bringing the nose towards the knees. Release to the mat. Last time, nose to the knees. And then release to the mat. Take your hands to the backs of your thighs and start to roll along the mat. So roll in a few times until you bring yourself up to seated. So we're going to cross our feet at the ankles, tuck our heels towards our hips, roll over and come to all fours. So from this all fours position, we're going to do 3 cat-cows. So have your toes into the mat so your legs feel strong. Hands underneath shoulders, knees under hips, and really spread the fingers wide here. Take a breath in. And as you breathe out, round through the spine, dropping the head down towards the mat. Breathe in. Breathe out. Sending the chin and the chest forward, coming into your cow pose. Breathe in. Breathe out, round the spine. Cat pose. Really press the mat away from you. Breathe in. Breathe out. Cow pose. Breathe in. Breathe out. Cat pose. Breathe in. Breathe out. Cow pose. Breathe in. And come back to all fours. So from this all fours position, engage your tummy muscles, take a breath in, and as you breathe out, step your right foot to the outside of your right hand. So we're still keeping our left toes into the mat, plant the sole of the right foot into the mat, take a breath in, open that hand up to the ceiling. So follow that hand with your gaze, if that feels good. Really reaching the hand up to the ceiling. Breathing out, place your hand back on the mat. We're going to do 5 on each side. So breathing in, release the hand. Breathing out, back to the mat. So quite a nice way of releasing the hands is if you send the elbow up first and then float the hand up to the ceiling and follow the hand with your gaze. Reaching away and then bring the hand back. So we're really opening through the shoulder and the chest. One more. So nice flowing movements. And then take your right knee back to all fours. And you're going to do the same on the other side. So take a breath in, tummy muscles engaged. Step your left foot to the outside of your left hand. So making this nice box shape under the body. Take a breath in. Extend the left hand up to the ceiling. Breathe out. Return it to the mat. 5 on this side. Just nice flowing movements. Waking up the body. And not taxing ourselves too much, because I thought it's hot. So we want to do something that's a little bit more flowing when it's hot, but it doesn't feel particularly warm to me at the moment. We'll just see if we can change that as we go through the practice. So 5 times on the left side. Once you've done your 5, place your hands back on the mat, release the knee back into all 4s. Good, well done. So keeping your toes into the mat, we're going to slide into puppy dog pose. So just walking your hands forward, slide them out so that you can send your nose and your upper chest towards the mat. Keep the hips stacked above the knees. So lovely stretch into the back. Take a few breaths here. Think about the spine always lengthens on the exhalation. So breathing in, breathing out. Maybe the fingers will slide a little bit further. Maybe you can send your upper chest a little bit closer towards the mat. The nose gets in the way a little bit here. Let's see what you can do. Just take another breath here. And then coming up and lifting yourself away from the mat. Take your knees wide, toes together, and slide back into extended child's. So rest in the forehead and the chest down into the mat. In extended child. So that mantra that I learned, the spine always extends on the exhalation, it might not be so much of a revelation to you, but it was to me. And I can see it in poses like this as well. So forgive me if I keep saying it. And then breathing in, bring yourself up to all 4s. Okay, so toes into the mat, take a breath in. As you breathe out, lift your knees and your hips, come to downward facing dog. Have a little walk with the feet. Ease the heels down into the mat. And then just hold your down dog for a moment. A few breaths. And then on your next inhalation, come up onto your toes. Lift your right knee up towards your chest. And as you exhale, step it forward and through. And you're going to drop your left knee to the mat. So keeping our left toes into the mat here, keeping that strong back leg. We're going to come up into crescent pose. So take a breath in, sweep your hands alongside your body, reaching up and reaching back. The gaze is through your palms. Take a breath here. And as you breathe out, maybe you can sink a little deeper. Breathe in, sweep the hands all the way back to the mat. So with your hands planted on either side of the foot, release the back leg and just take the knee back a little bit further. And we're just going to breathe as we move forward and back. Easing into the hips, stretching out the hamstring, just easing forward and back. So that after you've done it a few times, you might feel that you can slide your front heel a little bit further forward, as if we were going to come into a split position here, but we're keeping a little bit of a bend in that back leg, just easing into this. This is called half monkey god pose. It's a strange one, isn't it? Ardha Hanumanasana, half monkey god. So ease yourself back to bring in that front leg back underneath the knee, and the left knee, just ease it back enough so that you can plant your hands, take a breath in, step back to downward facing dog. Take a breath in down dog. And then breathing in, walk your feet all the way back to your hands. Uttanasana, forward fold. Just drop the hands towards the mat. Just easing out through the backs of the legs here. You can bend one knee and then the other. And then come back to your Uttanasana. Breathing in, slide the hands up to the shins. Find that half forward fold. Breathing out, Uttanasana, forward fold. And now bend your knees enough so that you can plant your hands into the mat. Step your left leg back, then your right, your back in downward facing dog. So we're going to work the other side. From your down dog, taking a few breaths here. Encourage the heels towards the mat. Imagine you're placing your bottom ribs on your thighs. Well done. Taking a breath in, coming up onto the toes. Lift the left knee up towards the chest. Step it forward and through and drop your right knee to the mat. Well done. So we're going to come up into our crescent pose. So taking a breath in, reaching the hands up to the ceiling, gazes through the palms. Remember the back toes are still strong into the mat. Breathe in here. And as you breathe out, maybe you can extend that spine a little bit more as you drop back into crescent. And keep breathing. Breathe in, breathe out. Float the hands all the way back to the mat. So we're going to do our movement, our monkey god movement. So moving the toes a little bit further forward and just easing into that stretch. Release your right toes down into the mat. Moving backwards and forwards. And if it feels good to hold the forward or the back stretch for a breath or two, then do that. Ardha Hanumanasana, half monkey god. Okay, so bring yourself back into this position where you can release to down dog. So we're just bringing the left toes back a little bit closer, right toes into the mat. Take a breath in, release, downward facing dog. Really work into your down dog here. Your hands are spread wide on the mat. Your ears are in line with your inner arms. Send your hips up to the ceiling and drop the bottom of the ribs towards the thighs, the tops of the thighs. Taking a breath here. And then as you breathe in, walk your feet all the way back to your hands, dropping the top of the head towards the mat. Uttanasana, forward fold. Breathing in, slide your hands up to your shins. Half forward fold, send the top of the head out in front of you. Breathing out, slide your hands back to the mat. So we're in Uttanasana once more. So from this Uttanasana, bend your knees and come down into a squat. I'm just going to swivel around to the right here. So if you can't place your heels on the mat, don't worry. Just do what you can. You can place a block behind your heels if that feels better for you. Otherwise, just find the squat to start with. So if the heels are away from the mat, that's fine. Your hands are planted into the mat in front of you and keeping you supported. So lift your chest here. So we're not going to hunch over, we're lifting the chest. We're finding some length in the spine. And then plant your hands into the mat, keeping your legs quite strong here. Take a breath in. And as you breathe out, you're going to extend your right leg out to the side. So have the toes pointing up. So it's a nice side stretch. Remembering that we're still keeping this chest lifted, trying to keep the length in the spine. So you should be feeling this into the hamstrings and the inner groins on the right hand side. Just take a breath here. And then on your next inhalation, slide that right leg back in. We're going to do the same on the other side. So just lean into your hands a little bit to release the left hand, the left foot rather. Sort of sitting down into the heels here. So you're really adding to that stretch, encouraging the sole of the foot to get towards the floor. And when we get really good at this, we can release our hands and have a balance. We won't do that today. Okay, so slide the left foot back in. So if you've turned to face the side of the mat, just swivel yourself around to the short end of the mat. Take a breath in, plant your hands, come back to Uttanasana, forward fold. Drop the top of the head towards the mat. Breathing in, slide the hands up to the shins, half forward fold. Breathing out, hands to the mat, Uttanasana, forward fold. Breathing in, take your hands out wide, come up with a strong, straight spine. Reaching your hands up and overhead. Hands to the heart center. Coming into Tadasana. We're going to do a little balance in a minute, but something else, another nice little tip I learned from Monica with our feet. So we ground our feet into the mat here. And we try to find that strong connection with the sole of the foot. But quite often we're not getting that connection because our feet are quite rigid. So we need to do some movements. You can release your hands to release the feet. So she was just rolling over onto the outside edge of the foot. So really open the foot as you roll onto the little toe side and then roll onto the inside of the foot. Just working and releasing the ankles at the same time. So do that again, roll onto the outside and roll onto the inside. And then place the sole of the foot down onto the mat and lift all of your toes up and away from the mat. And if you could have seen her toes were like fingers. They just came up. She's 74 years of age and the toes came up just like we were moving our fingers like this. So as you look at your toes, try and encourage there to be some movement in them. And a little trick is that as you're looking at your toes, move your fingers at the same time. Because something happens in the brain. And as you're asking your fingers to move, you can get the toes to move. So we've clearly got quite a bit of work to do to release our toes here, because we don't use them like we used to. We just trap them in shoes. And then roll onto the toes and lift the heel away from the floor. And then place the foot back down. So it should feel a little bit freer, a bit more grounded. So let's do the same on the other side. So roll onto the left side, the little toe side of the foot. Really push that foot into the floor. You can feel it into the ankle. And then roll onto the inside. You're turning in a little bit here. Just be careful if your knees give you any problems. And then roll back onto the sole of the foot and then lift and roll onto the, oh sorry, lift the toes first. And then when the toes are lifted, try and move the toes, try and wiggle them. So do the trick with your fingers. Imagine that you're trying to move each individual toe. And then place them down, lift the heel. So just stretching into the sole of the foot. And then place the heel down. So let's just do a little balance. Come up into our tree pose. So standing up straight and tall, relax the shoulders. Find your drishti. Taking a breath in, lift your right heel away from the floor and just take the heel and place it on top of the left foot. So encourage this right knee to come out to the side. So remember your drishti here. Relax the shoulders, engage the tummy muscles. Softness in that standing knee. Breathing in, float the foot up to below the knee or help it to above the knee. And really open through the front of the hips here as you drop the knee out to the side. And when you feel balanced, bring your hands together at the heart center. Just taking a few breaths here. So remember that feeling of breathing out and extending through the spine. Finding some freedom in all of the vertebrae in the spine. and then release the foot to the mat. Well done. So just plant your feet once more, stand up straight and tall, relax the shoulders, softness in the right knee. Breathe in, lift the left foot, place the heel on top of the right foot. So start to open that hip as you drop the knee out to the side. Breathing in, float the foot to below the knee or above, find your drishti. Feel that connection with the sole of the foot and the inner thigh. So it's two forces pressing against each other. So it's not forcing you out to the side. You're keeping that nice upright line. And when you're balanced, hands to the heart center. Relax your shoulders. Well done. Some really good, strong trees there today. And then release. And down. Come back to Tadasana. So we're going to come to the top of the mat. Take a breath in. Reach your hands up and overhead. Bring the palms together and all the way through the midline down to the mat. Plant your hands into the mat, slight bend in the knees, and step your legs back into downward facing dog. Just one more breath here. And then release the knees to the mat. Sit back onto your heels and release your legs. We're coming into Dandasana. Sitting up straight and tall. Find this L shape. The soles of the feet are pressing away as if you're trying to push them onto the skirting board. To feel the backs of the legs connecting to the mat. Relax the shoulders down. Find that upright spine. So you're in a lovely L shape here. Your hands can rest on your thighs or on the side of the mat, you decide. And then breathing in, slide your right foot towards your hips. As you breathe out, drop the knee out to the side. So we're coming into Janusasana. So if this is quite a difficult pose for you with your hips or your knees, you can have a block and place it under that bent knee. So just sit up straight and tall. Taking a breath in, float your hands up towards the ceiling. So find some length here. Lifting out of the rib cage, and as you breathe out, just start to float forward towards that extended leg. Trying not to round the spine, so just go as far as feels right for you. And as you breathe in, ease off, bring yourself back up. And as you breathe out, just reach forward once more. So each time you do the breath, you might find that you're getting a little closer to the foot. You might even be able to hold on to your toes or to your ankle or your trousers. So breathe in and release once more. And breathe out, fold over the leg. So this time, take a breath And as you breathe out, just allow your nose to come towards the knee. So if there's a little bit of rounding in the back, that's fine. Just drop the nose towards the knee. And then breathing in, float yourself back upright. Release the hands. Help this right knee back into an upright position, slide it away from you. So we're going to do the same on the other side. So breathing in, hug that left heel in towards your hip. And as you breathe out, drop it out towards the side. So the sole of the foot is on the inside of your right leg. Keep this right foot strong. Find the length in your spine. Remember, you can pad this left knee with a block or a blanket. Breathing in, float your hands up. Breathing out, keeping a nice straight spine as you reach forward. Reaching towards the foot. Breathing in and easing off. Breathing out. Reaching forward. Breathing, floating up. Breathing out. Reaching towards that foot. And this time, just allow your nose to drop towards the knee. So there'll be a slight rounding of the spine as you do that. Just breathe into this stretch. And then breathing in, bring yourself back upright. Well done. So help this left knee to come back to an upright position. Slide the leg away. And we're going to come down to the mat into semi-supine. So plant your hands alongside the body, palms are facing down. Relax the shoulders down into the mat. Relax the whole of the spine. And then keeping the feet quite close together. Taking a breath in. As you breathe out, you're going to send your knees away from you as they lift your spine away from the mat. So the knees are quite tight together here, coming up into this bridge pose. It feels a little bit different to when we do it with legs apart. We're going to try it to see the difference in a moment. Breathing out, release the back down into the mat, just slowly. So do that once more. Sorry, the breath is wrong. So take a breath in, breathe out, send the knees away from you, heel the spine up and away from the mat. Keep the knees close together. And then breathing in, lay the spine down on the mat. So we're just going to do that once more so we can detect the difference. So breathing out, the knees go away from you. You don't lift your back, it's the action of the feet pushing into the floor and the legs straightening that peels the back away from the mat. And then lay it back down. So now take your feet as wide as the mat. So taking a breath in and out. In and float the knees away from you as you breathe out. So try and keep those knees wide. And notice the difference here. The stretch has moved into the buttocks. And then send the back down to the mat. As you breathe in. Send the knees away from you once more. Notice how the buttocks are really engaged here. Into the glutes as you're lifting the legs. You might feel a little bit more in the thighs as well. And then release down. Once more. So just something simple like the position of the feet can change the muscles that we're working. So bring your feet in so that they're hip distance apart now. And we'll just do our usual bridge pose. So keeping the knees pointing up to the ceiling, keep that gap between the knees, take a breath in, breathe out, float the knees away from you. See if you can detect a different feeling as you lift the back and breathing in, lay the back down. So I think with the knees a little bit closer, you still get that feeling into the glutes, into the buttocks, but not as strong as if it was wide. And you definitely get the feeling in the front, the hip flexors here, with the knees just hip distance apart. And lay in the back once more on the ground. And then breathing out. Last time, lift the back, or lift the knees, I should say. The knees lift the back. And then resting down. And then hug your knees up and over your chest. Have a little roll side to side. Little massage. And then see if you can take hold of the outside of your feet as you drop your knees down towards your armpits. Send the soles of the feet up to the ceiling, coming into happy baby. Just have a little rock from side to side. Just do what feels good. And then plant the feet back down on the mat. So we're going to come down to Shavasana, and we're going to finish with a little breathing practice that I learned on the weekend as well. So if you want to get a layer or blanket, come down to your Shavasana. So coming down to the mat, lying out on your mat, feet slightly wider than hip distance apart, let the toes drop out to the side. Relax your shoulders down into the mat. So take your mind back to those grounding points that we had at the beginning. The heels, the sacrum, the sit bones, the thoracic spine, the shoulders, the skull, the back of the skull, and the elbows. Feel the connection with those 10 points. Just be aware of the connection with the mat. Don't force them down into the mat. Just know that they're grounded. And then take a deep breath in and sigh it out through the mouth. Ah. Really quite loud, let it go. So breathe in and sigh. Ah. Do that again a few more times, breathing in. Ah. Just notice how that sigh allows you to completely let go and relax into the mat. A few more, breathing in. Ah. Breathe in. Ah. So we're going to switch now to a yawn. So as you take a breath in, then as you're breathing out, just take your mouth into that position as if you're going to yawn. Or maybe even if you didn't feel like a yawn, oh, up comes a yawn. And if we were all in the same room, we probably would have started everybody yawning because it's the most contagious thing. So just do that a few times, breathing in and taking your mouth wide and yawning it out. Oh. Just a few more times. In and out. So a yawn can be quite energizing as well as relaxing you down. Oh, can't stop yawning now. So let's move to our next one, which is lion breath. So when you do lion breath, on the exhalation, you're going to stick your tongue out as far as you can, and you're going to roar that breath out. So you're going to breathe in, you're going to stick the tongue out and ah. Nobody can see you, don't worry. Breathe in. Ah. Do 3 more of those, breathing in. Ah. 2 more, breathing in. Ah. Really stretch the tongue out. Last time. And now just breathe. If a yawn comes, just let it happen. Just ground back into the mat. Taking your attention back to those 10 points. Maybe adding in the connection with the backs of your hands. You want to take it to 12. Staying silent for a moment. And then start to bring some movement back to your body. Wiggle your fingers and your toes. Rotate your wrists and your ankles. And take a deep breath in, float the hands up and overhead. A full body stretch, point from your fingers to your toes. And as you breathe out, let the arms rest on the floor behind you. Breathing in, bending your knees. And breathe out, rolling onto your right hand side. Just hug your knees a little bit closer towards your chest. When you're ready, just bring yourself up to seated. So how are we all feeling? Hopefully nice and relaxed. I spent the whole weekend in this daze of just totally relaxed. So let's finish with our 3 breaths together. So sitting up straight and tall, fingers to the mat on each side. Take a breath in, reaching up, breathing out, hands to the heart center. Breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. Namaste. Thank you, everyone.